Hi, my name's Phil Gardner and welcome to Fun with Boxes. Today I'm taking a look at The Cousins' War, the two-player game designed by David J Mortimer and published by Surprised Stare Games Ltd. This rather brilliant two-player game is based on the War of the Roses and will play in around 30 minutes. The War of the Roses were fought between the houses of York and Lancaster for over 3 decades during the 15th century in England. The houses were both branches of the royal family, therefore the wars were originally known as the Cousins' War. Each player represents one of the houses as they fight battles and gain influence to control England. Well, before we go any further, let's take a Fun with Boxes look at what you get in this small box game. The Cousins' War is played over a maximum of 5 rounds, with each round representing between 5 and 10 years of the conflict, where you will gain influence across England and prepare for a climatic battle. In each round, players decide where the current battle will be fought, and then play action cards to deploy troops to the battle, whilst also increasing or decreasing their influence in the regions before the battle takes place. Players resolve the battle by engaging in bluff and counter-bluff, using 3 dice until only one side has troops remaining on the battlefield. Winning the battle will also help to consolidate your influence on the board. And you will win the game if you control all 3 regions of England at the end of a round, or by controlling the most regions at the end of the 5th and final round. If tied, the winner of the most battles wins. The edition of the game I'm looking at is the 2nd edition, which came out in 2018. This is probably now the only version in circulation, but it's easy to tell apart from the 1st edition, as this version includes the previously available expansion called The Times of Change. Here is the back cover for you to see. Also, the 1st edition box cover was printed in landscape, sideways, rather than in portrait format like this edition, another way to spot the differences. Okay, let's set up a game of the Cousins' War. Unfold and place the game board onto the table and place the black round track marker onto round 1. There is a player aid card included, so pop that onto the table where both players can refer to it. Place the red, white and blue cubes onto the table to form a supply, and place the 6 dice next to the supply. From the supply, place 1 red and 1 white cube in each of the 3 regions on the board. Each player picks a side, white for York and red for Lancaster, and takes 2 cubes matching their colour, placing them in front of themselves to form their reserve. Next, shuffle up the action cards and deal 6 to each player, returning the remaining cards to the game box without looking at them. These will not be used for this round, and you are ready to start playing. Before looking at how the game is played, let's take a close look at the action cards. There are 2 types, battle cards and event cards. Here is a battle card. This is the battle card icon and name and date of the battle. The battle will play out on the battle card, but this will show you where on the board the battle is taking place. And here you will see the icon to show you how many and what colour starting cubes are added to the card at the start of the battle. Finally, the top right hand corner shows you how many command points the card is worth if played for command points rather than a battle card. Here is an event card. Event cards can be played for their command points or for the event detailed on the card. Just like the battle cards, the command points are shown at the top right-hand corner of the card. The event name and details of the event are shown here. The top of the card shows you the round track, and this is important because if there is a rose icon or a square box around the current round number, then the secondary event could be triggered. For example, if this card was played on round 3 for either its event or its command points, then the red player, the Lancaster player, will get to activate the card's secondary event shown here. Also, if the card has a boxed round marker that matches the current round, then the opponent could use the secondary event. So if this was played by either player on the 5th round, the opponent could use the secondary event. And now on to the gameplay. The game is played over a maximum of 5 rounds, and each round has the following 7 phases. Deal action cards, swap one action card with your opponent, determine the battlefield, play action cards, resolve the battle, perform a victory check, clean up. Do not be alarmed by the number of steps here. Most are resolved very quickly. If no winner is identified during step 6, the victory check, then we would continue to step 7 and perform the cleanup and then start a new round. If that was the end of the 5th round, then instead we would check to see who wins the game. For the first round, you skip steps 1 and 2, as we have already dealt the starting cards during the setup, but on future rounds you would follow them. So let's go through the steps. Step 1. You take all the action cards, including those set aside at the beginning of the last round, and shuffle them all together, and deal cards out so that each player has 6 cards in hand. Step 2. Then each player chooses 1 card from their hand and swaps it with their opponent. Step 3. Now each player must choose a battlefield card from their hands and play it face down in front of themselves. If you do not have a battlefield card in your hand, you must instead choose and play face down one of your event cards that does not have a rose or a box on the round track at the top of the card matching this round's number. The battlefield with the earliest year is chosen for the battle, and the other battle card or event is discarded to the discard pile. Place the battlefield card so that the bottom of the card is facing the player who played the card. Then each player places a number of cubes shown onto their side of the card. They can choose to add these cubes from the supply or from their reserve. If they do not have any cubes in supply or reserve, then they do not get to place any cubes. Step 4. Starting with the player who played the battlefield card, each player will play 1 action card, followed by their opponent, until both players have played 4 cards. They will now just have 1 card remaining in hand, which they can use in the upcoming battle, or even keep to use in the following round. When you play a card, you must decide whether to play it for its primary event or for its command points. You must play a card for either of these effects. You cannot simply discard it without playing it. Once played, players then check to see if the secondary event is available to the opponent by checking the current round to the round track at the top of the card played. If there's a rose matching the opponent's colour, then they may activate the secondary event on the card. If there's a square box around the current round number, then the opponent may activate the secondary event. Once done, the card is placed into the discard pile. Play the card for its event, simply carry out all the instructions on the top half of the card, the primary event. If you cannot carry out this in full, then you must instead use the card for its command points. Using a card for its command points, you can spend a point of the card to perform 1 of the 5 possible actions. Gain troops in the reserve. Take a number of cubes up to the command point value of the card from the supply and place them into your reserve. Add troops to the battlefield. Take a number of cubes up to the command point value from your reserve and add them to the battlefield. Move influence. Choose one of the 3 regions on the board and you move a number of your cubes up to the command point value of the card into that region from adjacent regions. Place influence. You may make a number of attempts to add cubes straight to the board from your reserve, equal to the command point value of the card. Only 1 cube can be added to a region. To make an attempt, first take a cube from your reserve and add it to the region you choose. Then roll 1 die. If the number you roll is greater than the number of cubes you have in that region, you have successfully added that cube. If it's equal to the number of cubes you have in that region, then you return that cube to your reserve instead. If it is lower, you instead return the cube to the supply. You can make any number of attempts up to the command value of the card, with a limit of 1 cube added to each region. Remove opponent's influence. You may attempt to remove 1 of your opponent's cubes from the board, and may attempt this as many times as the number of command points on the card. If you manage to remove a cube, then any remaining command points are lost. To carry out this action, first name the targeted region and then roll one die. If the roll is less than the number of cubes your opponent has in that region, then you remove a cube and that ends your action. If it's equal to the number of cubes your opponent has in that region, then you return one cube to your opponent's reserve. If it's higher, then the attempt fails, and you can continue further attempts if you have command points left available to you. After you play the card for its event or for its command points, you then check for any secondary event activation. Step 5. Resolve battle. Now we perform the battle for this round, and this features quite an unusual mechanism that I found to be very interesting indeed. If both players have cubes on the battle card, then we have to resolve the battle until only one player has cubes left on the card. If at any stage only one player has cubes on the card, they are the winner. If at the start only one player has cubes on the card, then they are the winner. And if there are no cubes on the card at the start, then the person who played the battle card wins the battle, and the winner keeps the battle card to show they've won that battle. After the battle, the winner places the remaining cubes from that card into either the region on the board where the battle took place, or into an adjacent region on the board, or put them back into their reserve. Only one region can be chosen, but the player may split the cubes between the region on the board and their reserve if they wish. Any blue cubes on the card are returned to the supply. Okay, on to how to resolve a battle. Players alternate taking actions. The active player to start the battle will be the one who controls the region the battle is taking place in. If tied, then the player who played the battle card is the first and active player. If you control the blue French cubes, these act as cubes on your side in the battle. And when you lose cubes, you lose the blue cubes first, which will return to the supply. Blue cubes come into play via an event card. The active player carries out the following steps. Battle step 1. You secretly roll your 3 coloured dice and look at them without showing them to your opponent. Battle step 2. Then you must make a declaration about your dice roll and may declare anything, but you must be prepared to prove your declaration or suffer the consequences. You could declare that you have rolled 1 5, for example, or that you've rolled 2 3s. Battle step 3. Your opponent now decides whether to believe you or to challenge you. If they believe you, then you do not need to show your roll, and instead we would skip battle step 4 and move to battle step 5. If they do not believe you and challenge you, then we perform battle step 4. Battle step 4. If challenged, you reveal your dice roll. If your declaration was true, then your opponent discards a cube from the battle card back to the supply. If your declaration was in fact false, you may now play the last remaining action card you have in your hand for its command points. You may use 1 command point per die to change it up or down by 1. You cannot change a 6 to a 1 or a 1 to a 6, and only 1 command point can be used on each die. If your declaration is now true, then we proceed to battle step 5 and your opponent does not lose a cube. If your declaration is still not true, then you discard a cube from the battle card to the supply and move to step 5 with the dice you now have. Battle step 5. If only one player has cubes on the card, then they win the battle. Otherwise, the opponent takes their 3 dice and rolls them openly. If they still have their last action card in hand, they may use this to manipulate their dice by playing it for its command points, as discussed earlier. Then the results of the player's dice are compared, and we are comparing highest single or double or triple rolled. The lowest player loses 1 cube from the battle card to the supply. If it's a tie, then neither player loses a cube. With tie doubles or singles, the other dice are ignored. So if someone rolled a 6 3 and a 1, and their opponent rolled a 6 5 and a 1, the highest single die is a tie and the other dice are ignored. When you have a triple beating a double, or a double beating a single, the loser removes 2 cubes instead of 1. And if a triple beats a single, then the loser removes 3 cubes back to the supply. Battle step 6. If only one player has cubes remaining on the card, then they are the winner. Otherwise, start another battle round with the opponent becoming the active player. And now back to the normal round steps. Round step 6. After the battle has ended, we now check for a victory. If a player controls all 3 regions on the board, they win the game. If this was the end of the 5th round, then the player controlling the most regions will win, and if tied, the player who won the most battles will win. And if it's not the end of the 5th round, then we continue playing. On to round step 7, clean up for the next round. If you are still holding an action card, you can decide to keep it in your hand or place it onto the discard pile. If a player keeps a card, then they will be dealt 5 cards at the start of the next round to bring their hand back up to 6 cards for that. All the action cards are now gathered up, including those that were not used this round, and shuffled to create the deck ready for the next round. And there you have it. That's how to play the Cousins' War. Well, this is a great tight 2-player battle of a game with a very unique combat system that just works so well. When I first read the rules, I was a bit confused around this bluffing system that is part of the combat mechanic. But once we started playing, it clicked, and immediately I thought, oh my goodness, this is amazing. This just works so well and really adds so much to the battles that occur at the end of each round. This is a game that will keep you entertained for some time as you battle away against your opponent. With only 3 regions to battle for, the game is a super tight push and pull, and we had an absolute blast playing this in the pub last weekend. It was great fun, and a game that I would highly recommend. If you're looking for a good 2-player game right now, that's a bit different, then you really should pick this up. Regardless of whether the theme grabs you or not, the game itself and its clever mechanics are what shines in this game. That's 2 big Thunderbird boxes thumbs up for this brilliant little game. I do hope you've enjoyed this video. Please consider hitting the old like button and also that subscribe button. That would be great for the channel. And as always, thanks so much for watching, and please take care. Bye for now.